I never expected to find love again, especially not with my boss. But life has a way of surprising you when you're at your lowest. If you want to know how I went from a struggling single dad to finding unexpected happiness, stay with me until the end. And if this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to follow more of our journey together. The pounding on my door at 5 a.m. jolted me awake. My first thought was for my daughter, Emma, still asleep in her room. Who could possibly be here at this hour? I stumbled through the darkness of my modest apartment, heart racing, praying it wasn't bad news about my parents. When I peered through the peephole, I froze. Victoria Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies and my direct boss for the past 3 years, stood in my hallway. Her normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her designer coat buttoned incorrectly, and her eyes red and swollen. "James," she whispered when I opened the door. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." I ushered her inside, confused and concerned. Victoria had always been the epitome of composure and professionalism. In the office, she was known for her razor-sharp mind and unwavering confidence. Seeing her like this, vulnerable and broken, felt like witnessing a different person entirely. "My divorce was finalized yesterday," she said, collapsing onto my worn couch. 12 years of marriage, gone. Just like that. I made her tea, unsure what to say. Our relationship had always been strictly professional. Sure, I admired her as a leader, and yes, there had been moments when our eyes had lingered on each other a second too long during meetings. But this, her showing up at my home in the early hours, crossed every boundary I could imagine. "Why me?" I finally asked, handing her the steaming mug. "Why here?" Victoria looked up, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Because you're the only person who sees me as more than just the CEO. You see me, James. The real me." The words she spoke next would change everything. "I've watched you these past 3 years," she continued. "How you've raised Emma alone since your wife passed. How you never miss a school play despite the deadlines I've imposed. How you bring the same dedication to being a father as you do to your work." She took a shaky breath. "I need to know your secret. How do you keep going when everything falls apart?" I sat beside her, stunned by her candor. Victoria Chen, the woman whose net worth was featured in business magazines, was asking me, her middle management employee who could barely afford this 2-bedroom apartment, for life advice. "There's no secret," I said softly. "You just take it one day at a time. Sometimes 1 hour at a time." We talked until the sun rose, sharing parts of ourselves we'd kept hidden from the world. I told her about the crushing loneliness of losing my wife to cancer when Emma was just 3, about the nights I'd cried silently in the shower so my daughter wouldn't hear. Victoria spoke of her marriage to Richard, a prominent surgeon who had gradually become a stranger, about the miscarriages they'd suffered in silence, and the growing emptiness between them. As dawn broke, Emma padded into the living room in her unicorn pajamas, stopping short at the sight of the strange woman on our couch. "Daddy?" she questioned, her 7-year-old face scrunched in confusion. "Emma, this is Ms. Chen from Daddy's work," I explained awkwardly. Victoria's transformation was immediate and remarkable. She straightened her posture, wiped her face, and offered my daughter a warm smile. "Hello, Emma. I've heard so much about you. Your dad keeps your artwork on his desk, you know." Emma beamed, instantly charmed. "Do you want to see my new drawings? I'm making a comic book about a superhero cat." Before I could intervene, Victoria was being led by the hand to Emma's room, leaving me standing alone, wondering what alternate universe I'd woken up in. That morning changed everything, though I didn't realize it immediately. Victoria left after breakfast, apologizing profusely for the intrusion and thanking me for my kindness. At work on Monday, she was once again the poised, powerful CEO, giving no indication of our early morning encounter. I convinced myself it had been a momentary lapse in judgment on her part, a one-time vulnerability that we would both pretend never happened. But then came the small changes. A casual email asking about Emma's school play. A coffee appearing on my desk, prepared exactly how I liked it, with no explanation. Project assignments that somehow accommodated my parenting schedule without me having to ask. 2 weeks after her dawn visit, Victoria stopped by my office late in the evening. "I'd like to invite you and Emma to dinner this weekend," she said, her professional tone belied by the nervous way she twisted her watch. "To thank you properly for your kindness that morning." I should have declined. Office relationships were complicated enough without adding my boss and my child to the equation. But Emma had talked about the pretty lady from Daddy's work every day since Victoria's visit, and I found myself saying yes before I could think better of it. Dinner wasn't at some exclusive restaurant as I'd expected, but at Victoria's home, a stunning but surprisingly cozy lakeside house outside the city. She cooked for us herself, a simple pasta dish that Emma devoured enthusiastically. We ate on her patio, watching the sunset reflect on the water while Emma chattered about school and her friends. "You have a beautiful home," I said as Emma explored the garden after dinner. Victoria's smile held a touch of sadness. "It never felt like a home until tonight. Just a showcase Richard and I maintained for appearances." As the evening progressed, I saw new sides of Victoria emerge. She was patient with Emma's endless questions, genuinely interested in her stories, and surprisingly knowledgeable about the cartoon characters my daughter adored. When Emma fell asleep on her couch, Victoria covered her with a soft blanket, her fingers lingering to brush a strand of hair from my daughter's face with such tenderness that my heart constricted. "She reminds me of what might have been," Victoria whispered, and I understood she was referring to the children she'd lost. That night, as we sat on her deck with glasses of wine, watching the moonlight on the lake, Victoria turned to me with determination in her eyes. "I need to tell you something, James. Something that might complicate things between us." My stomach tightened. Was she going to let me go? Had my performance been slipping? Was the company downsizing? "I've requested a transfer for you to another department," she said, confirming my fears. "It will come with a significant promotion and salary increase." I stared at her, confused. "I don't understand." Victoria set down her glass, her fingers trembling slightly. "I can't be your direct supervisor anymore. Not if I want to explore what's happening between us." The world seemed to stop. "What exactly is happening between us?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the sound of my pounding heart. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But I'd like the chance to find out. Properly, ethically, without the power imbalance of our current positions." I thought of all the reasons to say no. The company gossip. The potential career implications if things went wrong. The risk of Emma getting attached to someone who might not stay. But then I looked at Victoria, not the CEO, but the woman who had shown up broken at my door, who had connected so naturally with my daughter, who was now offering to rearrange her carefully structured company to explore a possibility with me. "Yes," I said simply. "I'd like that too." The following months weren't easy. The promotion meant new responsibilities that tested my abilities. Office rumors spread despite our discretion. Victoria and I moved carefully, building our relationship in small moments, family dinners at my apartment, weekend outings with Emma, late-night conversations about our hopes and fears. For months after that early morning knock, Victoria and I faced our first major challenge. A board member had raised concerns about our relationship, suggesting Victoria's judgment was compromised. The implication was clear: either end the relationship or one of us would need to leave the company. Victoria called me to her office, her professional mask firmly in place. "I've worked my entire life to reach this position," she said, her voice steady but her eyes revealing her turmoil. "Everything I've sacrificed, every barrier I've broken as a woman in this industry." My heart sank. Of course the company would win. How could I compete with the career she'd built? But none of it matters without the people I love, she continued, surprising me. I choose you and Emma. I choose the family we're building. The board can accept my terms or accept my resignation. I was stunned. Victoria, you can't give up everything you've worked for. Her smile was both sad and determined. I'm not giving up anything that truly matters. This company is what I do, not who I am. It took losing Richard, finding you, and loving Emma to help me understand that. In the end, it didn't come to resignation. Victoria fought with the same strategic brilliance she applied to business deals. She restructured reporting lines, brought in external ethics consultants, and ultimately convinced the board that our relationship posed no conflict of interest given my new position. 1 year after that fateful morning knock, I stood in my kitchen watching Victoria help Emma with her science project. My daughter was explaining her hypothesis with animated gestures while Victoria listened intently, asking questions that made Emma beam with pride. We're the luckiest, Emma had told me the previous night as I tucked her in. Most kids only get one parent who loves them after their mom dies. I got Dad and now I have Victoria too. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Victoria and I sat on my small balcony. The engagement ring in my pocket felt impossibly heavy. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Coming to my door that morning? Everything that's happened since. Victoria took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. That morning I was at my lowest point. I drove around for hours, feeling like my life was over. Something led me to your door, call it fate or desperation or just blind luck. She squeezed my hand. It was the best wrong turn I've ever taken. I pulled the ring from my pocket, this simple band that had cost me 3 months of savings. Nothing like the diamond she'd once worn from Richard, but chosen with all the love in my heart. Victoria Chen, I said, my voice shaking, will you build the rest of your life with Emma and me? Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded, unable to speak. When she finally found her voice, her words were simple but perfect. My answer was yes from the moment you opened your door. Our wedding was small, just family and close friends gathered at the lake house that had become our weekend retreat. Emma served as both flower girl and ring bearer, proudly telling everyone that she had 2 parents again. Life isn't perfect. We still face challenges, balancing careers and family, navigating the complexities of our different backgrounds, helping Emma through the occasional struggles of growing up. But we face them together, stronger for having found each other at our lowest points. Sometimes I still marvel at how one knock on my door at 5 a.m. changed everything. How the woman I'd only known as my intimidating boss became my partner, my love, and a mother to my daughter. How the words she spoke that morning, I need to know your secret. How do you keep going when everything falls apart? Led us both to the answer, you keep going by finding people worth going on for. If you're watching this and feeling alone, remember that life can change in an instant. Sometimes happiness arrives at the most unexpected moments, knocking on your door when you least expect it but need it most. Thank you for staying with me until the end of our story. If it touched your heart or gave you hope, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be sharing more about our journey, the challenges of blended families, navigating workplace relationships, and finding love after loss. Because everyone deserves to know that second chances are possible, even when they arrive at 5 a.m. on your doorstep. As the years passed, our unconventional family grew stronger. Victoria officially adopted Emma on her 10th birthday, a day filled with tears and laughter as my daughter finally had her mother's name on her birth certificate. Now everyone will know we're really family, Emma had said, her arms wrapped tightly around Victoria's neck. The company thrived under Victoria's leadership, expanding internationally while maintaining the work-life balance policies she'd implemented after understanding firsthand the struggles of working parents. I found my own success heading the innovation department, my confidence growing under her mentorship and unwavering belief in my abilities. We faced our share of challenges. Victoria's parents initially disapproved of her marrying an employee, while some of my friends questioned whether I was truly in love or just dazzled by her status. The gossip eventually faded as people witnessed the genuine connection between us, how we complemented each other's strengths and supported each other through weaknesses. When Emma entered her teenage years, she tested boundaries as all adolescents do. There were slammed doors and tearful arguments, particularly difficult moments when she would cry out that Victoria wasn't her real mom during heated disagreements. Those nights, I would hold Victoria as she questioned whether she had any right to parent a child who wasn't biologically hers. Blood doesn't make a family, I would remind her. Love does. And no one could love Emma more than you do. The turning point came when Emma, at 15, was caught sneaking out to a party. Victoria was the one who drove to pick her up after Emma called, too afraid to tell me she'd been drinking. Instead of immediate punishment, Victoria sat with her until sunrise, sharing stories of her own teenage mistakes and the lessons she'd learned. She didn't make me feel like a disappointment, Emma told me later. She made me feel understood. On our 5th wedding anniversary, Victoria surprised me with news that changed our family once again. After years of believing it impossible due to her previous medical history, she was pregnant. Emma's excitement at becoming a big sister overshadowed even our own joy, as she immediately began planning how she would help and what she would teach her new sibling. Our son, Michael, was born on a snowy December morning, completing our family in ways we hadn't known were missing. Watching Victoria hold him, her face a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming love, I thought back to that broken woman who had appeared at my door years before. How far we had both come from our darkest moments. Last month, as we celebrated Emma's high school graduation, I found myself overwhelmed with emotion. My daughter stood tall in her cap and gown, Victoria adjusting the tassel with proud tears in her eyes, while 4-year-old Michael bounced excitedly at their feet. The family we had created together, not through traditional paths but through chance, choice, and unwavering commitment, was my greatest achievement. Did you ever imagine this would be your life? Victoria asked me that night, after the celebrations had ended and the children were asleep. I thought about the lonely single father I had been, struggling to balance work and parenting, convinced that love was something I'd had once but would never find again. I thought about the reserved, work-obsessed CEO she had been, hiding her pain behind professional accomplishments and believing family was a dream she'd have to sacrifice. No, I answered honestly. This life is better than anything I could have imagined. Victoria rested her head on my shoulder, her hand finding mine in the darkness. All because I got lost that morning and ended up at your door. Not lost, I corrected gently. Just taking the long way home. Life rarely follows the path we expect. Sometimes it takes detours through heartbreak and loss before leading us to where we're meant to be. Victoria and I found each other at our lowest points, when neither of us was looking for love but both of us desperately needed hope. That early morning knock changed everything, not just for us, but for Emma, for Michael, and for everyone touched by the ripple effects of our unexpected love story. It taught us that second chances don't always come in the packages we expect, and that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings start with endings we thought we couldn't survive. If you're watching this and waiting for your own life to make sense, for the pieces to fall into place after they've been scattered, know that it can happen. Sometimes at 5 a.m. Sometimes through tears. Sometimes in ways you never saw coming. Thank you for being part of our journey. If our story has given you hope or touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to follow more chapters of our continuing adventure. Because the most important thing we've learned is that life's greatest plot twists often lead to its most beautiful stories. And ours is still being written, one day at a time.